What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 22 for Season 3, round number 8. This is actually round number 8 this time. I think I accidentally said last time Canada was round number 8. It wasn't, it was number 7. But this time it's round number 8, the Austrian Grand Prix. Of course, it's another sprint weekend, so let's see how this one goes. Lots of upgrades trying to go on the car. A lot of them actually coming through for this weekend. We're also going to put the build time upgrade for chassis on for number 3, which is going to get chassis to spec 3, because I don't think actually have any more chassis upgrades we can put on the car. So we're really wanting to get some stuff coming through, and then just as normal some timeliney activity stuff going on. We've got to choose a new rival, and my options were George Russell, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. And I mean, pretty easy for me. It's got to be George Russell, because Ferrari and Red Bull are quite a bit quicker than the rest of the teams. We were actually ahead of Mercedes. However, going into this race weekend, Mercedes have had a big leap up. They are now the 4th quickest team once again, ahead of us. We're now the 5th quickest ahead of Alpine. But McLaren have they've had an amazing jump up to this race weekend and are now the 2nd quickest team up there in between Red Bull and Ferrari. So McLaren are definitely looking to make their claim, to stake their claim at the midpoint of this season, to perhaps start taking some wins with Ricciardo and Bottas. So I'm interested to see what will go on there, although it's a bit of a pain because we were kind of fighting McLaren at the moment for P3 in the Constructors, but if they're now that much quicker than us and up there with the top guys, it could be difficult to get that P3 back. We are currently P4 as they overtook us, I think, last time out. And yeah, it could be a little bit more difficult to catch them now, but anything could still happen, and we are still doing pretty well. We get through Q1, no worries at all. Me and Lando both in the top 10. As we go into Q2 though, things don't go quite as well. Now I couldn't 100% remember, I mean I'll have to look as we're going through this lap here, but I couldn't remember why I didn't have a great lap. So we're dead last at the moment because I don't think our first couple of laps were that great, or maybe I just didn't. Maybe this is my first set of laps. I can't really remember. It might be, to be honest. No, it isn't, because we are at the end of the session, only a minute 20 of the session to go, and so far we're looking pretty decent. However, at this point right here, we get caught behind Daniel Ricciardo, who is on his out lap. He does get out of the way pretty easily, so that shouldn't really have affected our time, maybe a little bit, just getting stuck in the dirty air through a couple of corners, but ultimately shouldn't have been terrible. But we're not, I don't know, we're not doing as well as I thought we may have done. And I think, okay, here it is, it's around the second to last corner. We run very wide around that corner, then we're quite tight coming around the final corner, so definitely some time lost there. And in the end, it's P11 for us in qualifying. It means we just miss out on getting into Q3. Lando Norris is in P3, so it's a great result from him. But thankfully though, we do have a sprint race to go before the main race. So although we're starting P11 for the sprint, hopefully we can make some progress there for a better result in the actual race. So let's go.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo and Russell, Norris, Hamilton, Stroll and Pierre Gasly, Shaw, Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda and Joe, Albon, Latifi, Kevin Magnussen and Daniel Ticktum, Mick Schumacher, Schwartzman, Liam Lawson, and Sebastian Vettel starts from the back of the grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We will soon find out.
Alright, so here we go for the Austria sprint race in Season 3. Valtteri Bottas gets pole position for McLaren. Told you that those McLarens were going to be looking quick this weekend and possibly for the rest of the season. We get underway here. Ocon tries to go for a move up our inside, but doesn't quite make it stick. We end up actually getting quite caught behind Stroll up ahead, because it looked like we had a good run on him, but then just got a little bit caught out. But Stroll still not looking too great. We're going defensive from Ocon as we head into the hairpin here. And we're actually going to dive up the inside of Lance Stroll. We end up taking a very tight line. There's yellow flags behind. I think there was a little bit of contact, which we may see in a moment, but we haven't been able to make that move on Lance Stroll through the hairpin. So we're still currently sitting P11. Stroll up ahead, Ocon still behind us. The Alpine is just behind us on R&D, so I'll have to see how we can do with them, but I definitely feel like I have more pace than what I did in qualifying. So definitely looking to pull away from Ocon in the Alpines and potentially catch up to the cars ahead. Gasly probably the main one up ahead that we should be able to get past, because he is in an AlphaTauri and is currently up in, like, I think P8. So doing a good job, Pierre Gasly there, made a couple of positions off the start. Max Verstappen crosses the line first, so he's obviously gotten past Bottas at the start, and we will have a look at the front row here, as Verstappen got a great run, and he's already past Charles Leclerc as they come into turn 1, and he's already having a go at Valtteri Bottas as they head now down the main straight up to the hairpin. Verstappen making Bottas go very defensive into this corner, and is going to try and go round the outside of the hairpin. The two Ferraris are side by side back there as well. A lot of action going on. Verstappen though has had a great run off the hairpin and has gotten himself into the lead, so Bottas only managing to keep that lead for a couple of well, only a few corners really, but it's still all to play for at the front, as there was a bit of action behind as well. A little bit of contact, I think, between a few cars there, as yeah, there's just quite a bit going on right there. We have Alexander Albon now currently ahead of his teammate, but Magnussen is going for a dive up the inside, and they're going to end up being side by side, the two Williams, towards the back of the pack as they come around this next section. And Magnussen has managed to get ahead of Albon, but Albon is now diving back up the inside again. This is crazy battles going on right at the start of this race on lap 1. Austria never disappoints, so yeah, good to see some good racing going on. As on to lap number 2, Gasly and Hamilton having a bit of a kerfuffle up ahead. That slows them all down, including Stroll, and we're going to try and get a run on Lance Stroll, but now Stroll is going to have a look at a move on Gasly, and we're going to go up the inside potentially of both of them. Gasly's quite wide. We try and make the move. We've got the move done on Stroll, but couldn't quite get the move done on Gasly, and he actually might get a good run now on Hamilton, but Stroll has really messed up there and has not had a good run, and now Ocon is trying to get a move done around the outside of him through the next corner. These guys are going to be side by side as they come around this next fast left hand corner as well. Ocon on the inside here just has the better grip and will get ahead of the Red Bull. Onto lap number 3, and now Gasly is the car ahead of us. He does seem to be losing a considerable amount of pace, but now his engine goes up in smoke, and once again for the second time in like 2 or 3 races, I'm pretty sure, because it was Monaco, wasn't it, when Russell's car went up in smoke right in front of our face. It's now happened as well with Gasly, so that is just absolutely crazy there, as now Mick Schumacher goes for a big dive bomb up the inside of both the Williams cars, gets ahead of Alexander Albon, doesn't quite manage to get ahead of Magnussen, but now Magnussen and Schumacher are going to have a drag race down to the next corner. The two former Haas drivers, of course, now Schumacher, the only one driving for Haas, they make contact through the next corner. I think, yes, there is damage, and that is for Kevin Magnussen. His old teammate barges through and gets ahead, and now onto the next lap. It looks like Albon has got front wing damage as well, as now it's 3 wide going through turn 1 with Schumacher, Albon, and I think that's Robert Schwartzman in the other Haas, and Albon's going to have to do this whole lap with no front wing, as he is now going side by side with Ticktum, that is now in the Alfa Romeo. There's a lot going on right now, some crazy stuff happening here as Ticktum's ahead. Albon's trying to go for a move back again. The two Aston Martins at the back are now fighting each other. Vettel, I think, trying to get up the inside of his teammate Liam Lawson. He locks up going into that corner. They're still going to be side by side, but Vettel's just about going to get ahead of his teammate. Lots of battle going on right at the back of the pack. It is a pretty crazy sprint at this point in time. As on to lap number 6, we've got Hamilton ahead of us, and now with DRS and our car being pretty slippery in a straight line, we're going to go to the outside into the hairpin, and we're just going to sneak ahead before we get to the corner and get ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So that is good for us. Now it's only our teammate Lando Norris, the car ahead of us. The two Aston Martins continue to battle. These guys were technically at the back of the pack although they're actually in pretty good positions. I think they're in like P13, P14 at this point, because everybody behind them had to come in for front wing changes and damages. So the two Aston Martins battling it out for honestly actually decent positions considering how bad that Aston Martin car is, and they're still going for it. Lawson trying to get back past his more experienced teammate of Sebastian Vettel, but Vettel will not give in easily. He's trying to go around the outside, and he's done it. What amazing battling from the two slowest cars on the grid. On to lap number 9, and as you can see, the weather's starting to turn as Lando Norris actually goes for a move up the inside of Daniel Ricciardo into the penultimate corner and gets that move done. I've heard over the radio that Ricciardo has an issue, and we are going to try and make the most of that, as well as onto the main straight. We also get past Ricciardo. He's still just about sat there on the outside, but we're going to have the better line through the next corner, through turn 1. And Ricciardo's really going to be struggling here because he does have an engine issue. That's going to invite Hamilton to go for a move as well. Hamilton is going to dive to the inside, going in to the hairpin corner. Ricciardo tries to fight it, but he just will not have the straight line speed as they head down this main straight. I think Ricciardo may have DRS, but and that's what's kind of keeping him in the game at the moment. But ultimately, he just won't have the pace. Hamilton kind of barges his way through, and Ricciardo will fall down the grid. As you can see, the closing stage of this race, the rain is starting to fall, and I believe it is right about now. DRS is disabled, but we've only got one more lap to go, so nobody's going to come into the pits. We're just going to have to try and see if we can go to the end on these medium tyres without going off the track. I did know the rain was coming towards the end of this race, as Ricciardo loses another position on the final lap, the second to last corner, to Esteban Ocon for P10. So Ocon will take that P10 spot. P10 spot. We couldn't quite catch Norris in the end without DRS, weren't able to do anything, so we're going to finish behind him, but it's P6 and P7 for our team. It's a good recovery for us from qualifying. It was a poor quali session, but it's been a good race. Bit of carnage going on around us has also helped, and yeah, we end up finishing right behind our teammates. So we'll be starting side by side on the grid for the main race. And there we go. Verstappen ends up winning. Bottas comes home second. Leclerc third, and Sainz fourth. Russell very good there in fifth for Mercedes. So yeah, we'll have to see what goes on there. 2 DNFs of Gasly and Albon in that race. Actually, Albon I think ended up coming in because of his damage. But anyway, it is time for the main race.
Welcome to the beautiful Styrian Mountains for another chapter in the story of the Austrian Grand Prix. It's a short lap here in Spielberg with just 10 corners, 7 to the right and 3 to the left, making up a total distance of 2.6 miles. And expect to see a lot of the cars running wide today, especially through the last corner as the wet conditions make the car skittish through the downhill sections. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Sainz, George Russell and Norris, Shaw, Hamilton, Stroll and Esteban Ocon, Ricciardo, Mick Schumacher, Liam Lawson and Vettel, Magnussen, Latifi, Guan Yu Zhou and Robert Schwartzman. Albon, Tsunoda, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Ticktum, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? And with me as usual is Anthony Davidson. We should talk about Williams. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Okay, so P7 on the grid, and it is very much wet for this race, and the forecast says it's gonna pretty much stay at the same consistency of rain for the whole race. So it's looking like probably a full race of intermediate tyres, which could spice things up. It could make things boring here, but we've seen in the past that Austria can always throw up an interesting race. We've just seen it in the sprint. So I'm hopeful that even with these wet conditions, it's not super wet, so maybe we will still see some overtaking. I really hope we do, and potentially a bit of action here, maybe some crashes. Let's see what happens here for the Austrian Grand Prix, the main race. It's lights out and away we go. It is a decent enough start for us, all in there. To be fair, Hamilton is having a look up the inside though, but we're just going to try and go around the outside, and we're actually going to get ahead of Norris, and we're going to be side by side with Norris. We could have been further ahead, but we got boxed in by Sainz. We're going to go side by side with our teammate up to the hairpin, but I think we've just had to go in behind, and he's going to have a dive on Sainz. We get very close to the back of Sainz and actually have to let off a little bit, and that lets Hamilton go around the outside. That has not been the start that we wanted. We had an initial really good start off the line and through turn 1, but have had a bad one after the hairpin, just getting boxed in. Stroll actually tries to have a look at a move on us as well, but we just kind of go deep into the corner and make sure he can't get past us. But we've lost out to Hamilton at the start, where it was initially looking like we could have actually got ahead of Norris. So not the best start. A good initial start, not a great secondary kind of phase to this race and to this first lap. So we've kind of just got to hold position now, try and warm up these intermediate tyres, because it is rather tricky in these conditions, especially at the start when the tyres aren't warm. The AI do seem to have a bit of a heads up on me, so hopefully later on in this race, once the track starts to kind of, you know, bed in and dry out a little bit, we'll see what happens. This was lap number 2, and it is Daniel Ticktum actually going for a massive dive bomb on the inside of his teammate Tsunoda and Kevin Magnussen. He doesn't manage to get Magnussen, but he's made up 2 positions in that one corner there on lap number 2. That was a great move from him, starting in P21 thanks to a grid penalty. Sebastian Vettel also looking pretty good at the moment. He's got Daniel Ricciardo behind him, who's trying to make his way through the order. Ricciardo goes for a move up the inside, but Vettel defends like crazy, just keeps his foot in it and manages to stay ahead of Ricciardo, but Ricciardo's going to now get a better run up to turn 1. Vettel squeezes him a little bit to the inside. They're going to go around turn 1 right here. No contact is made, but Ricciardo perhaps a little bit on the back foot there, gets a bit of a slide from the rear tyres, but he's now hooked up behind Sebastian Vettel, behind the Aston Martin, and he's going to go for a dive into the hairpin. Here goes Ricciardo in the McLaren. Looks like he doesn't have that mechanical issue that he had in the sprint race anymore, so he's going to be wanting to put that car higher up, but at the moment Vettel is managing to hold on. He's doing a very good job at this point in the race. For us, it was a little bit difficult because I was pulling away from Stroll and Ocon behind, but I don't know, the first couple of laps I lost time to Hamilton. Now I'm kind of just stuck at this kind of 1.6, 1.8 second gap right now, and not quite able to make the inroads on him that I wanted, so we'll have to see how that pans out. As further back, we now have one of the Haas cars, I don't know which one it is because we are way zoomed out at the moment, going for a move on one of the Aston Martins. I believe that would be Liam Lawson, because Vettel's a bit further up the order, and the Haas, which looks like it's Robert Schwartzman with the yellow T-cam, has gotten past Lawson. Lawson though is looking up the inside. Ooh, he thought about it, he thought about a move, but has actually ended up having Kevin Magnussen go for a move on him, but didn't quite manage to get that one to stick. But yeah, some crazy stuff going on this point in the race. The action is still here even with the rain, as now Yuki Tsunoda into turn 1 has a Williams behind him, but the Williams has crashed into the back of him. That's Alexander Albon, I think that is there, and it looks like once again from wing damage for Albon, and it's going to put him out of the race. I think it's, yeah, it is Albon. He is out of this race, the first casualty of the Austrian Grand Prix. Nicholas Latifi now going for a move on one of the Haas cars. I'm not sure which one it is. Looks like it is Mick Schumacher there. Latifi not quite able to make a move on him at the moment. And now Robert Schwartzman in the other Haas is going to try and make a move on Latifi, but Latifi at the same time is going to try and make a move back on Mick Schumacher. Plenty of action going on here. The two Haases running in a decent position. They're not in the points, but they're doing all right. Now though, Mick Schumacher is still trying to battle with Latifi for this position, but he's just going to miss out. That Alpine is just a bit too quick for the Haas car, unfortunately, and he'll have to settle for that position. Behind us, there are yellow flags. Not sure what's going on there. We continue on. Still losing a bit of time to Hamilton ahead, to be honest. It's not quite going as well as I was hoping. I don't have the pace I was hoping at the moment, but there it is. Esteban Ocon is out of the session, and that looks like it's because of a mechanical failure for Ocon, so that's terrible. Second retirement of the race, only 11 laps in. He pulls over though. He's not in a place where a safety car is going to come out, so yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. Now we have Kevin Magnussen. He's looking at a move on the inside of Liam Lawson as they go through the penultimate corner, and now around the final corner. They're still side by side round here, and he has to back off in the end. Can't quite make that move, and is now going to come under threat from Yuki Tsunoda, who goes to the outside as they head onto the new lap into turn 1 here. Round turn 1 they go, and there's contact, and that is, I think, for Schwartz. No, that's not Schwartzman. Who am I talking about? Is that Magnussen or is it Tsunoda? I can't quite tell. Looks like it's Tsunoda there with the damage as they go into the hairpin now. There's more contact made, so I think that was even more damage for Tsunoda now as well, so that's terrible for him. Yep, his full front wing is now gone. Magnussen, though, still behind now, and I think he's going to try and go for a move as they go. Nope, that's Tsunoda's coming into the pits, but it's happened again, just like it always does in Austria. Magnussen has made contact with Tsunoda as he was coming into the pits. It always happens here. There's just this stupid thing with the game where the AI don't seem to know what to do when another car is coming into the pits, and it always ends up in a crash. It's a bit annoying, but it does mean that we finally got a safety car this season. This may be the first safety car of the season. I can't remember. It's the first one in a long time at least. And we're going to come in for our second set of intermediate tyres. It's a bit earlier than expected, quite a few laps earlier than expected actually, but under the safety car it's definitely going to be the way to do it. And I mean, intermediate tyres, they don't quite wear like other tyres do, so we should be more than fine to get to the end of the race now. But the carnage hasn't stopped, because it's happened just like it did last season as well. Zhou Guanyu has gone into the safety car, which is another glitch that seems to happen on this track. It happened last time with about 3 cars, I think, but this time it's just Zhou Guanyu. He is also out of this race. So we're down to 17 runners. We're not even at the halfway point in this race yet as we get once again underway from the safety car. Carlos Sainz, the car ahead, a little bit of a wiggle from him, and that doesn't give them the best run up this straight, and we're just going to deploy as much ERS as we can, because I think we're going to try and go for a move. Yes, we are, up the inside. He also is having a look up the inside of Hamilton. We have to take avoiding action. We've now got cars ahead of us, once again getting blocked in by Sainz. It's like the 3rd time this weekend that Sainz has blocked us in. Stroll had a look at a move on us there as well, but thankfully we managed to defend from him. As now Verstappen and Bottas battling at the front, but it looks like there's contact through the hairpin, and that is Max Verstappen with damage. So what happened there was Bottas did not come into the pits under the safety car. Verstappen did, so Bottas retook the lead of the race. But then Verstappen's made contact with Bottas through that hairpin, and now Verstappen's going to have to come in to the pits for a front wing change. And Verstappen's also going to come, Bottas, sorry, is also going to come in pretty soon, if not on this same lap, for a change of tyres. So the top 2 have just completely screwed each other over, and that means that I think Leclerc takes the lead of the race, because Sainz is back here with us in P4, and he's just gone deep into turn 1, and that's let us get ahead of him. He got stuck on the curb there after he went too deep and managed to get a bit screwed over there, and Stroll is also going for a move on him as well, and Stroll's actually having a little look at a move on us around the outside of the hairpin. There's just action everywhere in this race, and poor Carlos Sainz has lost 2 positions in one corner / one straight there. But he will come back on Stroll, because then into the final corner Stroll also goes too deep, and he is actually now going to come under fire from Daniel Ricciardo, who is now the lead McLaren because of Bottas's terrible strategy, and of course with the whole thing with Verstappen. As now, oh no, There's more damage. That's Lance Stroll now with front wing damage as well. So it's all starting to go a bit downhill. Max Verstappen trying to make his way through the order. He'd love to just at least score a point or two in this race. Goes for a move on one of the Haas cars. I think that's Robert Schwartzman there, and gets up another position. He's really going to be just hoping for at least a point or two in this race. Now Schwartzman under fire from Dan Ticktum in the lone Alfa Romeo. They're going to go side by side through this next hairpin. There's contact there between them two as well, and I think that is Ticktum now also with front wing damage. There's just so much going on here. Verstappen, now goes for a move on Liam Lawson. I think that puts him into the top 10. So that just shows you how good Aston Martin and Lawson are doing at the moment, because Lawson was in P10, and if you look at the top left there, Sebastian Vettel is in P6. Vettel in the Aston Martin, which is by far the worst car on the grid, is in P6 right now. This could be mega for Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship. But for us, with all the commotion that's happened ahead of us, Leclerc now leads the way. Norris is in second place and Hamilton's third. We are fourth. We're going to try and see if we can finally get our first podium of the season and be on the podium with our teammate. But behind us, Valtteri Bottas is making his way back through the order. He's just got himself past Yuki Tsunoda. So although his strategy definitely hasn't worked out for him, he is still in the points reasonably well and is ahead of Verstappen. For us though, we're just trying to absolutely just put the power down and catch up to Hamilton. We seem to have a little bit more pace over these guys, but we do have Carlos Sainz closing in on us behind. He has more pace than all three of us in that Ferrari, and he's trying to catch up to me, and he is actually now within half a second of me pretty much. As we go on to the penultimate lap, lap number 35, Hamilton up ahead. We go through turn one. Hamilton has a little bit of a slide over the curb, and that is the opportunity that I need to make the most of. We're going to deploy so much ERS as we head down to the hairpin, tuck up behind him. We're going to have to go for the move here to the inside of Hamilton as we go into the hairpin. He goes a little bit too wide, locks up, and we are up into P3. It is a P2 and a P3 for TGL Motorsport. We're going for our first podium of the season. Lando Norris is going for his second podium of the season. It would also be his second place, and it's gonna finally happen for us. We cross the line and finish P3. It's a double podium for the team, the first double podium in this career mode series, and it's our first podium of the series. It's annoying that we couldn't beat Norris, but we're both on the podium, and that's pretty good vibes, I've got to be honest.
Smiling faces on the pit wall then after that superb win here in Spielberg, and rightly so. A brilliant effort from the whole team. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's always a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on circuit and have come out on top.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today and a stunning win for Ferrari.
So there we go, Charles Leclerc wins the Austrian Grand Prix. Big things in the championship, because Verstappen, I think, ended up P10 in the end. So he scores 1 point, but only P10. But even better, in my opinion, for my team, is that Lando Norris is P2, we're P3. It is a double podium for TGL Motorsport. So awesome to see these overalls on the podium once again for Lando Norris, but for both of us to be up there is awesome to see, and I'm very happy for myself, for the team, and also for Lando Norris for that great result. He did an awesome race today, and we just made the most of what we had with all the carnage going on around us. Like I said, Verstappen finished P10, so only 1 point for him in the end, while Leclerc scores all 26 points because he also got the fastest lap. 5 DNFs in this race. The only one there that I didn't actually cover was George Russell. He went pretty early on. Pretty disappointing for him actually, because he was sitting in, I think, P3 and would have probably beaten us to the podium if he did finish the race. In the championship, Leclerc still P2, but he has now caught up to Verstappen, only 32 points behind now, so still a bit of a gap, but he's close. And me and Norris back up into, I think, P5 and P6. And Sebastian Vettel, he finished P6 in that race. pace and is now P13 in the championship, and has jumped Aston Martin from last in the Constructors to 8th in the Constructors Championship with 8 points. So that is big for the Constructors Championship. It's big for Aston Martin. Alfa Romeo are now the only team to not have scored any points this season, so that's big. We're P4. We have caught up a little bit to McLaren in P3. We're only a couple of points behind them now, so it's all getting pretty close. Ferrari are now back in the lead of the Constructors' Championship as well after a poor weekend for Red Bull, so it is still all to play for at this pivotal middle parts of the season. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.